Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live. It's all brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. I am John Schmelk. He is Jonathan Casillas here in the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. JC, how are you, man? Happy New Year.
I've been good, brother. How are you, sir?
I think this is the last day I'm going to go with the Happy New Year thing. We're like a week.
Yeah.
I think we're getting a little late.
A little more than a week, yeah. I think 2 weeks.
You can go. You go 2 weeks.
I think you got the whole month of January.
Really? You can go the whole month? You think?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
All right,
But 2 weeks is good. I think 2 weeks is good.
So then, Merry Christmas.
It's a little different though.
Is it?
Yeah, New Year. I feel like New Year. Everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Halloween.
But those are like specific to like certain, North America Christians. You know what I mean? Like everybody doesn't celebrate Christmas.
All right.
Everybody doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving.
All right, I'll buy that.
But everybody celebrates New Year's.
All right.
You know what I mean?
I suppose.
I guess.
You do have like the Lunar New Year.
This is true.
And you have Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year.
See,
so
okay, we're getting deep into the weeds there.
We are a little bit. Anyway, the Giants coaching search. The Giants are not confirming or reporting on any of their coaching movements, but we have seen the reports that are out there of the coaches that the Giants have spoken to so far. We went through that full list yesterday. I'm not going to go through the full list again. JC, and I'm going to make sure we take a ton of your calls today. So I want to get to them early and often here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Just give me your take on the guys that are available, what you're prioritizing, guys that you like. Just run down your thought process right now as the Giants try to figure out who their next head coach is going to be.
Jokingly, I'm talking to security guys as I'm walking in, like, hey, has Harbaugh been in here? And it's not about, like he has a name, but he had longevity for a long time, right? 18 years coaching for one team, Super Bowl there, stability,
only
culture.
3 losing seasons in 18 years, and 2 of those years were 8 and 9 years.
Culture is very much established. And when we were thinking about head coaches a month ago, Harbaugh wasn't up there, but he's the type of guy that I would like, somebody that I think has a established culture. The thing is, some of these young head coaches or these new first-time head coaches, they don't have a culture. Like they've been assistants and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's the right, progression of coaches, how it works. Position coach, maybe scout, right, and then you go to coordinator, and then you go to head coach. That's not always how it is, but that's how you move up. So I get that part. But this is a guy who has experience, and I feel like the Giants, this team, this organization, needs someone with experience, with leadership capabilities to get the most out of this roster. Because the Giants proved the last 2 weeks that they actually have some talent. Schmelk, teams don't get better when they're terrible. When teams are really bad, you know what I mean? Like 1 or 2 wins, they don't get better.
Yeah, I will stress, though, the last 2 teams they were playing.
They were rough. Defensively.
They were not exactly trying hard to win the football game.
I get it. Organizationally, but players was, though, because these players are playing for their jobs. You know what I mean?
I mean, they did. The Cowboys did bench their best players at halftime.
100% they did.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. Organizationally did.
Yes.
But the players, they go out there and play their best ball.
Yes.
And yes, that means something. And I spoke to you and Tiki about this during the game.
Of course, it doesn't mean that the best players were out there trying to win the game.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that, too.
No, but you're right. The players that are out there are doing their best to win.
But
Absolutely.
the Giants,
no question.
looking at the Giants, they're playing with more of an edge than I saw throughout basically the whole season, the last 2 games.
I agree with that.
And yes, they might have not beat a better team, the last couple of weeks, but I look at the film and I'm seeing better. Like I'm seeing better play. You can't say Abdul Carter hasn't been better the last 4 weeks of the season.
No question.
He's been phenomenal. That means to show me that this talent, this roster has talent. They have playmakers at very key positions. We mentioned Abdul Carter. And of course, how many times we talk about Jackson Dart every single time on this show. Every week he's shown me things that he can do that I said, this kid can do everything. He can use his legs, but he's an efficient passer of the football. He gets the ball out of his hands. He's very decisive. He has a big play type of mindset and arm. And man, I just think that this is a very attractive job, and I think everybody know that. I've been seeing, all the pundits, the ratings, and they said Giants is a top tier place to go. Organizationally, players, and then also the market in New York is huge. So I'm looking for somebody that can bring in, that culture, that leadership, established leadership, and really just get the most out of this roster, man. And I just feel like that's what the Giants haven't done. They haven't capitalized on the talent that they have inside this building.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's up yet, but it should be at some point during the show. I recorded a 20-minute podcast with Diana Russini yesterday late afternoon. Great NFL insider for The Athletic. It should be up there. A lot of good topics in that conversation, and she mentioned a lot of the same things you did. She said the most attractive thing to coaches that want to come to the Giants is the ownership situation. They know it's a stable ownership group that's patient, and you know what you're getting, which sometimes around the league you don't.
Yeah.
So that's very appealing to coaches. Jackson Dart is someone that coaches want to coach. They love his personality. They love what he's shown on the field. He's a competitor. And the other thing I asked her too, and this was off the air. I tried to get on the air, but her connection was kind of bloopy at the end, and it didn't really come through well. That she does not believe that, and a lot of fans have asked this question to us, that does retaining Joe Schoen maybe make it more difficult to find a head coach? And I've said I've never bought that. I don't think that's true. And she basically said the same thing.
Yeah.
So I thought that was all interesting. You guys should go check that out. Once the show is over, continue to stay tuned now. That's going to pop up on your Giants Huddle podcast feed on the Giants YouTube channel. Really good stuff. She learned a lot. She told me stuff that I wasn't even aware of. So you guys should go check that out. And it is an attractive job, JC. And the other piece of news we got today was Mike McDaniel got let go by the Dolphins. So that's 8 head coaches. A full quarter of the league is now without a head coach. 8 of 32 teams.
Wow,
and
crazy.
There are rumors that depending on who wins or loses and how that goes on this weekend, that
somebody else might be on the
1 or 2 guys could be on the chopping block. Jay Glazer had McDermott and LaFleur on his in danger list before the playoffs started with Buffalo and Green Bay. They're the 7th and 6th seed.
The name that's been coming up all year.
The Bills have the Jaguars. And the Packers have the Bears this week. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
But the name that's been coming up all year, which very much surprises me, kind of the Harbaugh situation too, is Mike Tomlin. You know, going into last
that name has also been thrown around too.
Baltimore versus Steelers is almost like, was that like whoever loses head coach gets fired? Like, what is that about?
And I have heard from enough people that I think there's a chance he might want to take a year off.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Maybe do TV.
It's a lot that goes into that. Because like, what if he doesn't get fired? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I hope he doesn't. He's another guy like Harbaugh, same type of situation, hard-nosed, type of culture.
And I think that's what the team needs, by the way. And I think we're in agreement 100%. On that. Yes.
That's what they needed that.
Which is why
the last few years.
If they want to interview him, I think it's great. And I think he'd be a phenomenal offensive coordinator. But I don't think that's the type of ship that Mike McDaniel runs. Yeah. That's just kind of my feel for it. Maybe I'm wrong. I've never been in that building. But I'm not sure that's the best fit necessarily.
Yeah, same here. You need like a dad. You need like a dad in the building.
An authority figure.
Authoritative figure, somebody that can put these guys in check and get the most out of them. It sucks to watch them play good football late in the season when I feel like, with the right pieces and the right person to get the most out of them, the Giants could have did something early in the year and finished some of those games that they had in the bag, and then came from behind and won some of the games that they were losing.
Yep. All right, you want to take some calls?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. 201-939-4513. Guys, I promise I get to them fast today. We got 50 minutes of calls. Let's get to it. Kevin in Raleigh, North Carolina will lead us off today. Kevin, what's going on, pal?
Hey, what's up, John and Jonathan? Hey, I just wanted to start off with a quick statement and then 2 quick questions for you guys. My first statement is, John, like you already mentioned, that Mike McDaniels did get fired with the Dolphins, and they are looking for a new GM, and they have interviewed Chad Alexander, who did work with John Harbaugh for 10 years down there in Baltimore.
And Stephen Ross, by the way,
a little bit.
Yeah, and Kevin, Stephen Ross also has a lot of connections to Harbaugh in Michigan as well.
Definitely, and my first question is, let's say we get the John Harbaugh interview going, and let's say he tells the front office, "Hey, listen, I want to be here, but I don't want Joe Schoen. I don't want to work with Joe Schoen." Like, could he pull a Liam Cohen like he did in Jacksonville last year, where he kind of drives the GM out the door? If you're ownership in that point, what would you do? If he's telling you he wants to be here but does not want to work with Joe Schoen, what would you do in that situation?
Yeah, look,
that's my first question.
Yeah, by the way, Diana Russini brought this up. She's not aware yet, and I'm not sure if even Harbaugh has decided yet what or if any demands he's going to have. But in a lot of ways, and she kind of said this to me when you guys go check out that podcast, that these interviews are as much going to be Harbaugh interviewing the organization as to whether he wants to go there as it is the organization interviewing Harbaugh. You know what I mean? That's the type of cachet that I think he brings. I don't know, Kevin. I'm not going to sit here and tell ownership what to do with their general manager, but given Harbaugh's record in history, that's a serious conversation they would have to have if that's what he says. And I'm not going to say it either way, but I'm sure that would prompt conversations, and I'll kind of leave it at that.
I think it's similar to bringing in like a top tier quarterback that has some stain. They played 10 plus 15 years or whatever, and you kind of know what you're getting from that person. It's almost like it's a back and forth conversation, not just a one-sided interview. It's more like, what would you like here? Because you know how it works in this NFL because you've been here for so long at that position. So I think it's a little bit of give and take when it comes to probably Harbaugh. Even McCarthy too, like guys that had success at head coach for a prolonged period of time. I think that's a kind of
and Kevin, the bottom line is that JC and I don't know like where the ownership groups, the Maras and Tisches, see these coaches, right? Do they see Harbaugh like on his own tier by himself? Do they see him, all right, well, if we don't get Harbaugh, we get Stefanski, we're good. If we don't get Harbaugh, we get Vance Joseph, we're good. Or insert whatever name you want into that conversation, right? I don't know what they think about that. So I really don't know how to answer that question, and I'd be kind of just throwing an answer out there, and I don't feel comfortable doing that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I just wanted to make one more quick point before I ask my final question. I'll take that off the air. I just, wanted to say what I said before about the Chad Alexander thing. That kind of, the reason why that worries me is because, this, Jonathan, the NFL is a relationship business. You want to work with people that you worked with before and you're comfortable working with, and then because he has that kind of tie with Harbaugh, that kind of concerns me a little bit. But my final question before I go is, let's say hypothetically we do hire John Harbaugh, best case scenario, with that top 5 pick, I would love to see, us get the kid from Ohio State, that linebacker, or get that safety Downs from Ohio State and kind of build that culture like, kind of how John Harbaugh has with Hamilton and Ed Reed and kind of, get that blueprint chip player on defense that kind of runs the show. What are your thoughts about that? And I'll talk to you guys next time. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it, Kevin. Look, Ohio State's got a lot of really good defensive players in this draft. I think Sonny Styles is fantastic. I think Caleb Downs is fantastic. I think Arvo Ruiz is fantastic. I think all 3 of those players could very well be top 10 picks in this year's draft. Styles maybe more of a top 12-ish guy, but would it shock me if all 3 of those guys went in the top 10? No, it wouldn't. And throw in their nose tackle, Caden McDonald. He's like a top probably 15 or 20 guy. There were a reason they were like the second best team in the country after Indiana for most of the season. They're that good. But I see that. I also see with Neighbors coming off an ACL and Wanda Robinson a free agent that you might need to attack that wide receiver position pretty aggressively in the offseason too. So those are the 2 areas. And by the way, what happens if Jermaine Illuminor doesn't come back? What happens if Greg Van Roten doesn't come back? Then the offensive line becomes an area. By the way, you should always continue to draft young offensive linemen to build that group, by the way.
Absolutely.
That area then becomes an area you can attack. So those are the kind of the areas that I'm looking at. O-line, receiver, and then second and third level of the defense. Those are kind of linebacker and DB. Those are the 3 kind of spots that I'm looking at, or 4 spots if you want to separate the linebacker out from the defensive back position, that I'm looking at as a priority when you start looking at some of the draft spots.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. Depending on free agency, if they don't sign Wan'Dale back, I think that is probably one of the top priorities. Wide receiver kind of slides up. As of right now, let's say you can't keep everybody, but let's say they keep the guys that we think they're keeping, maybe GVR signs back or something like that, and they keep Wan'Dale. I think you go defensive tackle or you go corner that first pick. And that's just me. Cornerback play for the Giants hasn't been great. Even signing Paulson Adebo this year, I don't think he had the year that we thought he would and he thought that he would have here. Flop being out as much as he's been out, even though he had come to his best year this year when he was healthy. And then Banks, I think he kind of proved that he can't really be the cornerback number 1 for this team. And I would love for the Giants, but I don't know college ball like that. I wait to to listen to your analysis of all the players.
You'll start watching these defensive
I'll
players.
watch the stuff coming out in the draft. I'll do.
You love watching the linebackers and stuff. I know that.
I just don't watch college ball during the year.
I know.
So like I'll watch, what's coming up, whatever bowl games they got left in national championship, right? That's it. Fine.
The semifinals and
then the
national championship.
So I'll probably watch one or two of those games, but I just don't watch it. But as the off season's here, I do start paying attention to draft. I pay attention to stuff that you put out because you do a very extensive 250, 220
I was at like 160 last year, which is about
like I said, very extensive
research
research on these guys, man.
And right now, this whole morning, I'm trying to get ready because I'm going to the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl in 2 weeks. We're actually flying out 2 weeks from today, and I am cramming to watch as many of those guys as I can. So when I get out there, I'm not like, who?
How many guys on the Senior Bowl roster? Like 70?
Well, no. Remember, they got to fill 2 teams. So you're looking at probably
one side.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think probably around 60-ish, 50. 60 I would say 50 to 60. It's a good question. I imagine there's probably about 120 players there. Okay. I think probably. That's a good question. I need to look that up. Yeah. I'm honestly not sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of guys. So I'm not getting through all those. I'm hoping to get through the top between the 2 games, 50-ish over the next 2 weeks if I can. And it's not going to be complete, but it'll be, just get a feel for the guys before I get there.
Is there anybody in college ball right now that you'd be like, I'm interested to see what he looks like in person?
At the Senior Bowl?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
That's tricky because he has to be a senior. Because give me an underclassman.
Actually, Johnny Mac, do me a favor. Do you see like the Senior Bowl roster sheet right there? Can you hand that to me, please? If you see it, should be sitting right on the desk. I don't think that's not it. It should be sitting in the middle of the desk. The Senior Bowl roster. Thank you very much. And I can look at some of the names and tell you. Thank you, Johnny Mac. Let's see. Guys that I'm interested in seeing. Cornerback Will Lee, Texas A&M. Traden Stukes out of Arizona, another corner. There's some good edge players there. It's a pretty deep edge class. So Zion Young, Missouri. Dennis Danny Sutton, Penn State. Romello Height, Texas Tech. TJ Parker, Clemson. Logan Fano from Utah, the offensive lineman. Gabe Jackus is a defensive lineman.
Quintavious
I'm sorry,
Hitchens.
Logan Fano is the brother. He's actually the defensive lineman. Let's see. Who else do we got here on this list that I'm interested in seeing in person? Deontay Lawson, Alabama. He's someone that's a good player. The Caleb Elam's linebacker from TCU. If I missed somebody here, I apologize. I've been going through these very quickly here as I go through the roster. Taylor Green, Arkansas quarterback, has a lot of potential. I know not really a giant thing, but just in general. Both Penn State running backs, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, they're good players. Jonah Coleman from Washington, I like him a lot. He's a guy I want to see in person. Safeties, let's see. Tight ends, Michael Trigg, Tanner Koziel, DJ Rogers. Wide receivers, Deion Burks, Casey Concepcion, Elijah Surratt. So those are some of the names of the guys that I'm excited to see. LT Overton from Alabama is another guy that's going. It's a really nice group. They actually got a lot of Garrett Nussmeier from LSU is going to be there. So it's a nice group. I'm excited to see him. 201.
Who's coaching? I'm sorry.
They haven't announced that yet.
Okay.
It'll be an all-star group of coaches. So obviously the Giants, given they do not have a coaching staff, will not have any assistants there, more likely than not. Though I think you can actually still recommend, the front offices recommend assistants, and a lot of the Giants' assistants are still actually under contract, so I guess it's possible.
Okay.
But we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Let's go to Phil in North Carolina. He's up next. Hey, Phil, how are you?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Good show.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So just before I get into my main point, you guys were talking about corners, cornerbacks. Boy, I am sensitive about taking cornerbacks in the first round. Maybe because it just hasn't worked out for us lately. So, we had Eli Apple, and then we had Banks, and so. I'm like, we can't afford to miss on another first round. I'm like, we better get a position and a player that we know is going to be solid from, a solid player, like a D tackle or something like that. But anyway, that's my view. So my main point is I wanted to, and John, I know you're big on this. I looked at the point differential for the Giants for the last 10 plus years.
Yeah, it's not good.
And I think you've done this in previous shows, but maybe not this year. So here I'm going to try to summarize it real quickly. So this year we had a point differential of negative 58, right?
And actually got much better the last couple weeks. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that makes sense, right? If you think about it, we did lose a lot of close games, right?
Yeah, but my point is that before the Raiders game, they were at like negative, I think, like 96 or something like that.
That's the number.
Yeah, but okay, yes. But so here's what's interesting, though. If you look at 24 and 23, we're way over that. We're like negative 140, basically the same, negative 142 and negative 141, despite our records being 3 wins in one year and 6 in the other. And 22, so even without the last game, I should say, we were under 100. We were better. We were trending up, right?
Yes,
compared
correct.
to last year.
It's certainly better than it was the last couple of years. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. So in 22, we were basically near zero. We were negative 6, right?
It was about even. Yep.
And 21, we were super high. Negative 158. 2020, we were negative 77. So, if you remember that year, we lost. There was a lot of close games in that year too. 19, we were negative 110. 2018, we were negative 43. In 2017, we were really bad, like negative 142. So the last time we were above zero was 2016. We were plus 68.
Yeah, and this year, just so fans understand the exact number, they are the 5th worst point differential in the NFC. The only teams worse than them are the Commanders, the Saints, the Panthers, believe it or not, who are in the postseason, and the Arizona Cardinals. And then there are some bad teams in the AFC, the Raiders, the Titans, the Browns, the Bengals, the Jets, and the Dolphins. So that will put them at around 4, 5, 6, 11th in the 11th worst point differential.
There's some bad point differentials out there.
There were some bad teams out there, JC.
Teams out there, you're right.
Phil, what's your overall point? What do you got?
Yeah, so we made some improvement.
Yep.
And you can kind of see it, but we've been in the hole for a long time, and I think historically I haven't looked at it like I'd be interested in seeing it like compared to the desert years there, in the 70s, but what our point differentials were then. Of course, it was a different league then, but anyway, we've been in the hole a long time, so I think it's not just coaching; it was a combination of things, and I'm hoping that we're trending in the right direction. So, thanks a lot, guys.
I appreciate it, Phil. Good stuff. Let me hit a couple YouTube questions really quick from the Red Panda 84. What's up, Big Blue? McDaniel or Harbaugh? Who's a better fit? I think we would pretty much answer that.
Yeah,
we think it would be Harbaugh based on his personality. Aiden wants to know, JC, when your interview is.
For what? For what position? For head coach? Definitely not qualified for that. But I feel like I can coach linebackers. I'll be able to get the most out of these guys for sure. Yeah,
and then DADNAY, I don't know why people think Harbaugh wants Shane gone. I agree with that. There's been zero indications that that's the case. And as I mentioned, Diana Russini mentioned in my interview with her that she does not think that's going to be an issue moving forward. All right, let's go back to the calls, 201-939-4513. Tim in Charleston's up next. Tim, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing? Haven't talked to you since before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Tim. Hope you're well, man.
Everything's great.
Great.
I've got a couple of statements and then morphing into a question that I haven't heard asked yet. So the first one is my preference is obviously Harbaugh, then Stefanski, and then third would be Vance Joseph for me. McCarthy, I'm just worried that he's a little stale, a little old school, and not what we need. But so I'll say that about the coaching. The second
that makes sense.
thing
All right.
I would. The second item is I'm really hoping that we can keep Illuminor, as we all are. But here's my rationale to it. Got Bo. Bo is capable, I think, of being a starter. But I would rather see him slot in at guard and keep Van Roten then to be depth. Bring him back and say, hey, okay, you won't have to play all 17 games this year, hopefully, and we'll still pay you. But my issue is if Illuminor leaves and we put Bowen at tackle, then we're going into another season with no competent, reliable swing tackle. And that's led to disaster before. So that's my thoughts on
Tim,
that.
I think that's a good question, but I would say that you could then use the money you're saving not paying Illuminor to bring in a good swing tackle. So that is theoretically something you could do. My feelings on Illuminor, I'm a fan. I think he's a good player. I do worry about how expensive it's going to get to bring him back. And Marcus Ball, I think, has shown you enough that you think he can develop into a player of that level. He's not there yet, but I think he can get there. So that's kind of where I'm leaning right now, but we'll have to wait and see. Look, we don't even know who the offensive line coach is going to be. We don't know who the offensive coordinator is going to be. We don't know who the head coach is going to be.
Right.
Remember, Illuminor played for, just as an example, John Harbaugh in Baltimore. Like, he knows the player. He was there at one point. So what was that relationship like?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Maybe Harbaugh loves him. Maybe Harbaugh can't stand him. I have no idea. So all that, Tim, is something we'll have to figure out as we kind of shake down this coaching situation.
And all what you just said leads into my question, which is about the coaches we have remaining under contract. Now, there's a hope, and then the big question. The hope is that I know they said that on a case-by-case basis they'd let these guys, but I hope we settle on our head coach, whoever it may be, because obviously we all want to see Carmen Barcelo back. And I would like to see Charlie Bullen, if he's just out there getting another DC, I would like to, especially if he comes in under a coach like Harbaugh, Vance Joseph, who have that defensive pedigree, Harbaugh, special teams defense pedigree, that he would become DC under them and further develop with that kind of coach. But here's the big question I have is, could you see, let's say Harbaugh gets hired, for example, is it feasible, a scenario where Mike Kafka, who is from Surgeon, going to interview for some of these jobs, if he doesn't get a head coaching gig, is retained with obviously if the new coach wants him as offensive coordinator, or do you think him being interim kind of precludes that or excludes that from consideration because it makes an awkward situation? And that's the question I have. I haven't heard anyone ask it. I'll take your answers off the air.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Kafka, I believe, was asked that at a season-ending press conference. He said he really hadn't thought about it. Does Matt Nagy leave Kansas City, and that opens up an offensive coordinator spot with Andy Reid again, where Kafka was before? I don't know. I mean, I think you asked a question, see if he would be open to it. I honestly don't know what Mike Kafka would say to that.
Yeah, I think he would be open, given, he's staying the same, and not, moving down.
Right.
Of course, everybody wants to move up. If you can move horizontally, I think that's cool. But if you can stay where you're at with somebody you love in Jackson Dart and, watch him blossom and help mold him, as, a young Patrick Mahomes when he was around, I would say yes. But, who knows what Kafka's thinking, who knows what's going through his head, and he may get entertained to be an OC somewhere else and maybe even a head coaching job, because I know prior years he had head coaching interviews before. So we'll see, man. Yeah. It's a lot of unknown right now, a lot of uncertainty, like about everything, about all players, about the draft, about the coach. There's so many things that could be, speculated about, that whoever that comes in here, though, they have to be able to lead this locker room. Like, that's where I feel like the Giants have failed. And that's what we've seen on the field. We haven't seen the most out of really good players on this defense, especially, that haven't played well, that haven't played up to their standard. And you got to get the most out of these guys, man. I don't know how long we can go without seeing that again. It's been a long time. I feel like when I played in 16, that was a year where we got the most out of the roster. And in the 17, same roster, it didn't happen. I don't know why, but it didn't.
And that is the job of the coach, by the way. On an individual basis with individual players, can you get the most out of that individual player? And it's easier said than done.
Oh, so much easier said than done.
Let's go to Mike in Atlanta. He's up next. Mike, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for calling. What do you got?
I just want to hit a couple of things and just kind of share some sentiments. I think positive, at the end of the season, there's been so many ups and downs. But, a couple of weeks ago, we were looking at draft order. And, I always want to see the team play, play to win. It disappointed me, there's speculation about tanking this and that. Obviously benching, starters didn't feel good because, at the end of the day, the draft position is sort of a consolation prize, and it felt in some respects like we were cheated out of that. But looking back at it, I am very proud of the team. And I think that affects you, moving forward, in terms of showing character. It does impact the team, the players, and even in the coaching search, too. I could imagine things would be different, had we benched players like some of the other teams did, to try to get a better draft spot. I'm glad that the team had a couple of victories at the end. Just talking about the head coaches, I've been a big fan of Harbaugh for a long time, and I know it was probably about 5 years ago they were talking about potentially moving on from him, and I thought that was crazy at the time. And the timing actually, like a lot of callers have mentioned, it's exciting, to think of a candidate like him and, the class that he's shown, the success that he's had. I remember in that Super Bowl against Jim Harbaugh, 49ers, Ravens, just even how he approached it. Just on the side, there were some messages that he had sent, and they made their way to social media, just telling his brother he's a great coach. He has a way of working with people, and with Jackson Dart being a young quarterback, I would love to see that happen. I do think the Giants are good candidates, but obviously there are a lot of teams out there. I do want to say that on the GM side, I'm really glad that we stuck with Shane for a lot of reasons. And I don't think that you could ignore last year's draft class, and just a few things I want to throw out about that. Picking Jackson Dart at the 25th pick in the draft. In hindsight, there's talks that, and there's no way to really know, but he could have potentially gone first overall, maybe not, to the Titans, if the draft was done over. But when you think of the amount of draft capital that you would have to give up to move from 25 to 1 or 2 or 3, we were able to get Abdul Carter. We were able to land our quarterback at 25. We got Cam Scatterboo, who likely would go in the first round, if you redid the draft.
Maybe second.
And not to mention Marcus Pope. It was a really great draft, and I don't think you can ignore that. And I think that the way that the season went, we did have a lot of injuries, which you don't make excuses for because injuries happen in the NFL. But I think from a GM standpoint, he gave us a shot where sometimes you have to roll the dice where when you're building a team, you're not able to have all the the talent on the bench that you would like, but at least you have, solid starters. And, we weren't able to predict that Neighbors would go down, Scatterboo, different things that we had to navigate through, but he gave us a chance. And I think that the way I'd like to see the team go in the future is with a great coach that's able to develop talent and have a really solid bench that as things, as people go down, you're able to fill it in and keep things moving. But, I don't want to get ahead of myself with Harbaugh, but I could see him being like the next Andy Reid, type of thing, coming, from one location and then really having some great success with a great quarterback. I think that would be, the upside, the best case scenario, and we'll see what happens. But
thank you, Mike.
Those are my thoughts on it. Love to hear what you guys say.
Appreciate it, man. I think Giant fans have a preference. I will say that. It seems like they have a preference.
Yeah, I mean,
and I can't blame them.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm sitting here. I'm analyzing what happened in the quarterback room because that's something that we've been talking about for the last few years leading up to last year, and I love that approach to what they did. They brought in 2 veterans before the draft even happened, guys that they didn't make them compete, but they could have competed. Those 2 guys, Russell and Jameis Winston. I like that situation. I like bringing in 2 veterans that are really good. In general,
I think competition at every position is good, right?
That you're going to get the most out of him. Right. The other, and then at the end, like this is the thing, and this is the lovely thing about football and sports in general. You go and try to beat this guy out. You hate his guts, just because you're trying to beat. And then when the season starts, he's your best friend, and you help each other out. You know what I mean? But sure. That's the camaraderie that I think is needed. The competition leads to that, and the more people you got to have all the positions, just like the quarterback position for the Giants, when you have depth with experience, it's invaluable. You got guys coming in. I spoke so many times about Craig Dahl and Brandon Merriweather about the impact they had on Landon Collins. And Craig Dahl, he played, but he didn't play as much as Landon. Landon played like 100% of the snaps. Brandon Merriweather played very sparingly, but they had a huge impact in Landon Collins' development, and he was an all-pro player for 2 years in New York. I just think that it's invaluable when you bring in, veterans at different positions. Of course, you can draft guys, but having really good potential starters at every single position that can raise the competition level, I think that's what the Giants need.
201-939-4513. Look, just get as many good players in the building as you can, right? It's really that simple.
Yeah, man.
I mean, is this OG Steve? OG Steve in DC. What's up, OG?
You know what's going on, John.
How are you, brother?
Buddy?
You
Happy
good?
New Year to you, man.
You too, man.
JC, good to talk to you for the first time, brother. I hope all's well with you, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Nice meeting you, OG
John,
Steve. I like the name.
Hey, man. Oh, yeah. Hey, listen, John, I got a lot to say because it's been a minute, but I promise you I'll talk real fast. But, I'm going to say a lot, and I'm going to try to end it on the note that I know you don't want to hear the most.
Oh, man.
All right,
But
awesome.
I got to let it hang out there, though, John.
All right, go ahead. Steve, the floor is yours. Go ahead. You got it.
But first I wanted to say this. As a Giants fan, I've never really been more embarrassed in my life, at the end of the season. I'm tired of token wins. To me, to win, a game against the Cowboys, of all things, with Dak not in it, it meant nothing but stupidity to me. I was really like, okay, win is enough. I'm tired. It did nothing for a team who's not even going to be the same next year. No, coach, not the same player, so I'm not one who's going to say, we didn't get anything out of it. And as far as the draft picks, we've had so much low-hanging fruit. Of course we got good players, but we don't have a team, and we never had the right leadership, which is, been the biggest problem. I'm not all that big on Harbaugh, not because of Harbaugh, but because he's had enough success in this league. I want somebody who's a lot more hungry, ready to prove himself, a strong leader, and I'm going to come back to that in a quick minute. But no, I'm not all that big on Harbaugh. I love everything about Jackson, but I'm really not ready to crown him. I want to build around the position. I want to bring a younger talent in here and push him. There's too many reasons not to put all the chips on him at this point. Number one, your health is, your biggest asset. So with that alone, I just don't think Jameis Winston or even Wilson at that point was a long-term threat. He needs a real threat back there, and we need to be able to develop players. So I forgot a lot about what I was going to say because I want to get to this most important part.
That's fine. And
I will just go back to this. And first of all, Mr. Mayor, I wish you your health, your good health, and blessings. But ever since the mysterious Kaepernick letters came out of nowhere, where no fans are talking about bringing Kaepernick into this organization, a lot of things have transpired since then. And I know this is not possible or likely, but let me tell you something. If we could knock out a lot of birds with one stone and bring in what I feel like would be the best candidate for this team, and it's just not going to happen. I understand that, but let me tell you something. They need to find a way to settle that lawsuit and bring Mr. Flores in here and let him lead this defense and this team. We need a defensive leader, okay? We are going to be a run, smash-mouth team, play action, run first and play defense. We need real, true leadership who can relate and get these players motivated and keep them that way. I'm fine with the offensive coordinator who can be the quote-unquote quarterback coach, so I don't need an offensive guy. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't really want to slide on my chips to the table with Harbaugh. Let's bring somebody young with a lot more to prove because I'm in it for the long haul. This guy has nothing to prove. We've broken it, and I want somebody who's going to stick around and take credit for fixing it. So I'll listen off air. I wish you all a happy New Year, man, and thank you for letting me get it out, John. I appreciate you, man. Thanks.
No problem, Steve.
Happy New Year, Steve. I like that take, though. He says
which one? There was about four of them.
The one with Harbaugh being older and really nothing to prove. He wants a younger guy that's going to be around for the long. I like that take. I like that take and not bringing in a guy that has 30 years of coaching experience, bringing in a guy with maybe 10 years of coaching experience. And, I like that. I never thought about that aspect of it. You know what I mean?
There are look, putting the lawsuit stuff aside, because we don't know what's going on with that. Flores is an excellent defensive coach, right? Based on reporting that I've seen and people that I've talked to, there were a lot of personality issues with him in Miami. He tends to rub people the wrong way.
Yeah.
And he wasn't exactly great with the young quarterback in Miami too, and Tua.
Yeah.
That did not go well. So I think you have to do a lot. And again, this is putting the lawsuit aside, which you can't. And I think that makes this whole thing impossible anyway. But you have to dig deep and hard about whether or not you think he's the right fit to be the guy that's the leader of the organization in the building. Because that's what the coach is. When the coach is here, it's his building.
Yeah.
He runs it.
He runs it.
Is that the guy you want running the building with his personality? I don't know the answer to that. I don't have a personal relationship with Brian Flores. He's a Brooklyn guy, so that makes me want to love him.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. But
I
again,
like B-Flow.
And then you have the whole lawsuit thing, which is a whole nother thing. So,
yeah.
anyway.
And I just think there's some guys like that aren't really like meant to be head coaches. You know, like I think they're meant to be great coordinators, you know, like, and they stay there and they have a long career and have success there. It just sucks that when you have a lot of success at your coordinator job, it automatically puts you up for head coach. Like, suggest like he could be a head coach, and it's like, why?
Right.
What qualities besides him being a good? Just because you're a good coach, that doesn't mean you're going to be a good head coach.
The jobs are so different.
They're so different.
Yeah.
They're so different. Like a coordinator cannot like some players on the team. Like he could be like, I don't like that dude. Like it can happen. I'm not saying it does.
Oh, I'm sure you've seen that happen.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Absolutely.
But a head coach can't be like that.
Right.
You know, like he has to be PC, but then at the same time he has to be edgy. You know what I mean? Like, because you got to get the guys fired up. You can't be a pushover, but at the same time you got to be a player's coach. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you have, and a lot of that doesn't require you being a good coordinator. You know, not being great. Not saying you don't have to be great at X's and O's. I think everybody in the league has to be pretty efficient at X's and O's. But like, you don't have to be a brainiac, one of those type of guys. Yes, you got to be, I think, smart. I think everybody in the league is smart and tough, but there's levels to it. You know, there's levels to it, players included. You need a guy that's going to be smart, tough, extra on the tough here in New York. I think that's what you got to put an extra on.
Let's go to Ryan, Illinois. He's up next. Ryan, what's happening, pal?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good.
I'm a little obviously disappointed in the overall season, but just a couple things real quick. First, I do think it kind of stinks with Mike Kafka kind of getting the blame for the whole ship.
I mean, I don't think he is. No, Ryan, I don't think he is.
Yeah, I don't think he got the blame. I mean, I think they pointed.
I wish he
the
could
guys who
stay
got the
on
blame is not in the building
and
anymore.
still get another DC. You know, I just think it's either he's head coach or he's gone, and I hate to see that because it's very possible that he'll become a head coach somewhere else and be very successful.
He could.
And I feel like they're going to say we have to get someone new in here, and I don't fault them for that. But I just feel like Mike is kind of like he made a lot out of an offense with very few pieces and a rookie quarterback, and I want to give him some flowers. Like, he did a really good job.
That's very fair.
Not a good season.
No, very fair, Mike. Ryan, I don't disagree with anything you said. You got anything else?
One other thing, I feel like there's a lot of Giants fans who kind of say, "Here we go again," and I kind of want to rebuttal back a little bit.
Sure.
The reality is that this is not. We didn't have a single game this season that was 40-0 at home against Dallas. That was a different beast entirely. And I just feel like we're at this point where, you know, it does happen way too often, and I really do see some positive pieces moving forward. But it's just going to be the most important head coaching pick, and then also who's that defensive coordinator to get the most out of these guys. Because, you know, say the Giants get 5 more turnovers and keep the same amount of turnovers that they give up. And then say Malik Neighbors doesn't go down. I know 2 what-ifs, but isn't that 6 or 7 more wins at least?
Well, I mean, 6 or 7 more. I mean, I think you're looking at maybe 4 more, 3 more, something like that, yeah.
But like those last minute, you know, they lost in the last 30 seconds in 5 or 6 games. And I really do think that's
but Ryan, you got to understand, though, when you're playing these better teams, and JC can, as someone that played for the Patriots, and maybe the Patriots didn't do this because of the Patriots, but sometimes good teams you're going against a team that is not good, and they'll kind of have the cruise control button flip for a little while, and then when they get to the second, they're like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
We'll do what we need to do to win this game now. So if something happens during the game, you don't know how that impacts what happens later in the game, and things can change. I will say this, and I think this is an important stat to an extent. The only games the Giants won this year when they were games in which they were at least +2 in turnover margin. You can't live that way. Eventually, you have to start
Yeah.
winning games where you're even in turnover margin,
And -1.
or -1, or +1.
Yeah.
But the Giants need to be at least +2 in every game that they won this year. So
Yeah, it's not good.
I would just keep that in mind. I do believe the team was better and more talented than their record indicates. I think that is true. I think they are a much better and more talented team than they were the prior 2 seasons. I think that is true as well. I just don't like the exercise of saying, well, if A or B happen, we're winning 6 more games.
I don't do that.
I just never think it's that simple.
No, you
Maybe
can't do
just
that because look at the games
clapback
that
has, like,
happened
certain mindsets.
this past weekend with Pittsburgh and
Baltimore.
Baltimore. I mean, you saw the last minute of the game. Like, what if he makes the field goal? What if he makes the extra point?
Yeah.
What if he doesn't catch the 4th down pass? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of what ifs you could have played, and that was just the last 30 seconds of a game. You know what I mean? Like, you could do that all season long. The fact of the matter is, like, your record is what you are now, right? There are teams that are playing this weekend and there are teams that are not playing this weekend. The teams that are playing this weekend, they have to figure out how to have a better season next year. For the Giants, it's going to start from the top all the way down. You got to get yourself a caller of the game, a head coach, a leader, and then other pieces will fall in line. But until then, everything is going to be speculation until then. But how quickly would that head coach turnaround be? Would it be in the next 2 weeks, right? It wouldn't be no longer than that.
I would
think,
say,
right?
well, I mean, it depends. Like, if the Giants want to hire somebody that gets to the divisional round of the playoffs, they can't interview those people in person until after the divisional round. So,
That's
a
whole
caller called up and they
conversation,
said they
yeah.
want to hire, let's say you want to hire Jeff Hafley or Chris Shula,
Yeah.
and the Rams win this week. Well, you can't interview Chris
Can't
Shula
even
in
think
person
about it.
until after the divisional round. Heck, if he keeps winning, you can't interview him in person
February.
until you get to the bye week
Before
the Super Bowl. Correct.
So it's still February. Yeah.
So you're looking that you're not making the hire until the very end of January or the beginning of February.
Yeah.
So it depends on who the candidates are. It can move a lot faster than that. I would say the earliest something could happen is next week. But depending on who they really want to make sure they talk to and do 2 interviews with and an in-person interview, this could push to the end of January.
Yeah.
So it all depends on how the process goes. The only rules you have to have at least 2 in-person interviews with non-in-house minority candidates. That's the Rooney Rule. So once you meet that criteria, you could hire anyone you want at any time. And reports are that the Giants, and again, we'll see if they end up being accurate, are going to do in-person interviews with Antonio Pierce and Raheem Morris. So
Okay.
that would meet
Yep.
that would meet the conditions of the Rooney Rule.
Yep.
Because neither of those 2 gentlemen are right now employed with another team. And I do think both those gentlemen, by the way, are serious candidates and are real legitimate guys that the Giants would really think about hiring for their head coaching position. But a guy like Vance Joseph, for example, he's on a bye. You can do a virtual interview this week, but you can't interview him in person until he's out of the playoffs.
Right.
So that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah. I played for Raheem. I didn't play for Raheem. I'm sorry. I was interviewed by Raheem coming out of college when he was the head coach of the Bucks.
Okay.
And then ended up playing for Shiano when I was there. But he's a Jersey guy. He's from Newark. And then, of course, everybody know AP. He's a former Giant, former Super Bowl champion from the Giants. So they both have affiliations. Who was that? Who was that? That little girl?
That was Claire.
That was your daughter?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
I haven't seen her. She was a baby.
Yeah, she's big.
Yeah, like
She's
I haven't
8.
seen a picture or anything since she was a baby. You had her here?
Yeah, she came in one day. School was off or something, so I had to bring her in here. I had her come on to do talk about the
Nice,
draft.
bro.
It was
My
funny.
daughter would never. At this age, she would never. Like, oh my God, no, Dad, get that camera away from me. I'm telling you, you're good now. Watching like 7 years.
I think it might be sooner than 7, bro. She's 8. I think once they get to 13, I'm toast.
Yeah. You got about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. Maybe 3.
Come on, give me more than
Listen,
that, man.
so Vilma told me this. Vilma's helped me out in so many different things. And this was like the saddest thing that I've ever heard, but it was so true. He was like, bro, just embrace it. You're not one of her favorite people anymore. I was like, bro, what? Why would you say that? And then I
That
thought
is
about it.
so depressing.
She got 2 little sisters. You know what I mean? 2 baby
so
sisters.
depressing.
You know, got all her friends. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, dang, man. I probably was like top 2 or 3. I would think maybe in the top 10, maybe. I think. I hope. I hope I'm in the top 10.
And she is very much a daddy's girl too. So
Yeah.
she's like attached to my hip.
Yeah.
So that's.
I hope it doesn't though, because
Everyone has warned me of the same thing though. So I am trying to mentally prepare myself for it, as devastating as that might be. Let's go to German in New Jersey. German, or is this German?
German.
German, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call.
No problem. What do you got?
No, I just wanted to speak a little bit about where the defense end finished the season. I feel like this guy was really bringing out the best out of them, and it's something that I think was slacking the whole season. And I feel that whoever comes in there has to be a dog. As far as a defensive coordinator, I wouldn't mind Antonio Pierce being there, to be honest with you.
Who? I'm sorry, say that again, German?
Antonio Pierce.
Oh, Antonio Pierce. I got you.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I always liked the linebacker position. To me, you got to be a dog, you got to be aggressive, and I feel like they should focus that on the draft or free agency as well. I feel like our depth wasn't really loaded, or backups that will be able to take care of that position.
I think that's fair.
In the long run. And another thing, as far as the coaching, I feel like we need somebody who's going to be aggressive, somebody who's a chameleon. What I mean by that is somebody who's able to adapt and coach differently, because every player is different. And I feel like that's something that we would need big time. But I like the way we're going, and I just wanted to say that, and I'll leave it to you guys, and let's go Giants.
No, look, I appreciate it. And look, I think the back two levels of the defense is where your focus has got to be. Because you talk about the run defense, and everyone says, well, it's got to be the defensive line, right? Look, defensive lines give up 4 and 5 yard runs. 10 and 15 and 20 yard runs, that's the linebacker's fault, and that's the secondary's fault.
Yeah, not for real.
It is.
Yeah, not for real.
It absolutely is.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
So, like, that to me is some of the stuff that has to get cleaned up in terms of allowing explosives in the run game. And then, frankly, there were just a lot of guys open in the secondary, JC.
Yeah.
And look, I think Charlie Bolin did a great job. I think he did some interesting things, especially with Abdul Carter. It was an improvement. But again, just remember who the two opponents were to close the year.
Yeah.
So let's not make too much out of it.
I listened to a lot of the interviews from the Giants post game, and the way they talked about Charlie Bolin is,
they like him.
I didn't really hear him talking like about Bowen at all like that in what 2 years, and
well,
a couple of games.
They actually won 2 games, which was not a common.
Right, that's true. That's true. But even the games that I don't know, the games that I don't know. I just feel like for me with I like Charlie Bolin and the job he did. Because I saw a change. Like I saw things happening different than I didn't see. And there's some stuff that was still there, of course, and I'm watching it like, okay, that's still an issue.
Getting off blocks.
Yeah, that's still an issue. A better team the last couple of weeks, it would have been a different, ending. I'm not saying the Giants couldn't have won those games, but these are not top tier teams. But I do like the energy that they play with.
Just an example, like the Cowboys had 80 rushing yards in the first half of that game. So
I mean, they average like 400 yards on the ground.
No, look.
I mean, on the ground. Sorry,
overall. Per game.
Yeah,
they're a great offense, and the Giants were fortunate that Dak fumbled that snap, which was a takeaway.
Yeah.
That's not one that's forced, but look, it was better. It was certainly better.
Yeah, just overall, running to the ball. I still don't think they're getting off blocks as much as they could. But I saw more population to the football than I've seen.
I agree with that.
In recent weeks. The energy was up.
Andre Patterson talked to me. He called it overlap, where like if one guy doesn't get in the gap, someone else can come over. Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Listen, it was a lot of bad football on film, and it wasn't great at the end, but it was better. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right.
You and Tiki was like, what? And I get that.
No, and it was better.
Just watching them on film, it looks better. It's cleaner. Even offensively, I think they're operating a little bit more efficiently in Jackson Dart, not as many false starts, pre-snap penalties and stuff like that. Stuff that, when you have experience playing the position, they become less. And we're seeing, we saw that as the year went on. It just sucks that the caller said it's like all for nothing. It almost is like all for nothing. And I get the fans now for the first time this year, them saying like, oh, the Giants should have lost because they could get the number 1 overall pick. I get that part. That's never going to happen. Not in this organization.
Not here.
Not this organization. But it sucks because it's like, what was this season? What was this season? When you look at it as a whole,
it was a lost season.
It was a lost season. It was a lot to gain because you got young players that made some marks. Jackson Dart, Wan'Dale Robinson had a career year. Yep. We saw the introduction of Cam Scatterable into this region. That's going to be electric for the few years to come. And we saw a young young player in Abdul Carter mature in front of our eyes and become the potential player that we thought he was at the end of the season. So I saw some great things, a lot of negative stuff, but hopefully, we can right that ship, man. And look, man, this is a great organization since when I was a child. I've known about how great the organization was for the Giants, and then I played for the Giants. And then as a retired guy, I've been working with you for a few years now. I still think very highly of this organization. So does everybody. And that's the rough part about it. When you look at the stands, you look at the fans, it sucks because they want to show up, but it hurts them to show up.
Yeah, and look, the organization has tried to go about things the right way. Mm-hmm. The decisions just have not worked.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that there's something fundamentally wrong.
Right.
Sometimes things just don't work out.
Yeah.
And that's what it's been. And they're trying to fix that by bringing in a new coach. We'll see how it goes. Let's go to Mike in Brooklyn. He'll wrap us up today. Mike, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, guys. How are you?
We're good.
All right. I'm just going. This is a pro Joe Shane call. They're crucifying him on social media. I don't get it. I know the record's been terrible the last couple of years, but think about let's be specific on the draft. Just this year's the 2022 draft, they're going to be free agents. Go from Kayvon, who's got his fifth-year option. Evan Neal, we know, has not worked out. He supposedly reached for a second-round pick in Wandell. How'd that work out? Third round, Cordell Flott. You got Dane Belton and Micah McFadden, 4 and 5. I think that's a pretty good first draft, And he had guts to go out and get Wandell. I had no idea who Wandell was when he drafted him, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't. And then 2023 was not his finest work, but again, who did he reach for? It wasn't like he was reaching for draft picks. These were like who everybody, all the experts said they were in the right spot. Even like Evan Neal was, like you said yesterday, he's supposed to be the first pick in the draft. He possibly could have been. So, and then the last two drafts he's nailed. I mean, we got this year we got Abdul Carter and Jackson in the first round. I'm not going to go over each guy, but they all seem to be key cogs in the future. So the free agency, we can go there quickly. He's done well in free agency. Not everybody's going to, obviously not everybody's going to hit, but he's got 3/4 of this offensive line, much improved offensive line, free agents at decent prices. Bobby Okereke is going to be on the fourth year of his contract. He didn't overpay for him. And Brian Burns, what more can we say about him? I mean, he had a phenomenal 2 seasons this year. It was incredible. I really think, obviously, the record is what's getting people, and it should. But I think that this team is got so much talent on it, and I think with the right head coach coming in, with the right schemes, this team can be effective. I think the last couple of weeks I'm going to keep going with what JC said. Charlie Bowen, the change was obvious when I watched them. It just seemed like the players were playing more freely. They were playing faster, and I think the results, although not outstanding, were a hell of a lot improved. Being that it was not even half the season that he had to. What was it 6 weeks he had? I think
5. I think.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of negative out there, and I went 4-13 and 3-14 last year. There should be, but I think the future's going to look good. We got a quarterback. We got Malik coming back next year. We got Scat coming back next year. Tyrone Tracy had a great year, considering he didn't get much opportunity in the first 5-6 games of the season. So that's it. I wanted to be positive, and I just wanted to point those things out.
Thank you, Mike.
You guys doing a great job. I appreciate it, man. Have a great day.
Appreciate it, man. Hey, look, and I think they like the process that Joe Shane has put in place in terms of player evaluation, and it's very easy to argue, and I'm not going to go through all the picks now, that at the time the picks were made, they made sense, and they were not outlandish in terms of draft position. He mentioned Wandell was one of the outliers, and for the first couple of years, it didn't look like that was going to work out too well. But his fourth year, he kind of blew up, had an awesome year. That pick looks a lot better, obviously. So I think that's why ownership decided to retain him, because they like the process. They think his team-building philosophy is correct. And while there were mistakes made, especially after that first playoff year, that the thought is that with this process in place, if it is as good as they think they are, if it's as good as they think it is, that better results will follow because the process is sound.
Yeah, and he's learning. First-time GM, gonna make mistakes, just like anything you do for the first time. And listening to his interview the other day, he said that he drafted players that were specific to a certain style of play, coordinator-wise. Maybe that was Wink he was alluding to, and he had certain players that he drafted, to fit his scheme and not just being a good football player, not to say good, but like a great football player like that. And he said he learned from it. And that's, for me, that's all I wanted to see from young guys, right? He's a young guy in his position, right? He's still young at the general manager position. Same thing with Jackson. Jackson was a first-year quarterback, right? I didn't like some of the things he was saying because it was like he didn't learn from what was happening. And then 2 weeks ago, he said something at the end of one of the games that Paul Dottino asked him. And I said, that's all I need to hear. I need to hear that you're willing to learn.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
At any position, whether it's your general manager, head coach, D coordinator, whatever it is, you have to be willing and able to learn and learn fast and quickly and apply it.
All right, let's go to 2 more YouTube questions very quickly. At 11, Imani, if you're a top head coach and you're looking at the Giants and Dolphins, which team looks more attractive? That, to me, is easy, and it's the New York Giants.
Yeah. Besides state tax, that's it. That's it.
Weather?
The weather. But hurricanes are there. So.
Look, Miami's offensive line is not in great shakes right now. Tyreek Hill with a serious injury. He might be done. Outside of Jalen Waddle, who are their other weapons at wide receiver? Yeah. Devon Achan's a really good player at running back. Defense, look, and I give Mike McDaniels credit. They kind of, after a really bad start to the year, they finished the season strong. But I don't think there's a ton of high-end defensive players on that roster. And what's the quarterback situation? Tua seems like he's on the outs there.
Yeah.
Maybe with a new head coach, that decision will be different. I don't know. But to me, just looking at football talent, and, I think the Giants have been a lot more stable than the Dolphins have been over the course of the last couple of years.
Yeah.
10 years, whatever, decade. At least in my opinion, I think the Giants are the much more attractive coach.
Yeah, I think so too. For all the reasons that you named. This is when you think about, I think, top tier organizations, regardless of what's on the field and what their record is. I think you consider the Giants one of them, and I don't think Miami's one of them.
All right, the last and final question from the Red Panda 84 again. What's the deal with Antonio Pierce? Is he a legit head coach job interview, or is it more for DC? Harbaugh, Monken, OC, Pierce, DC sounds pretty dang good to me. Here's the funny thing about Antonio Pierce. He was a defensive coordinator at Arizona State. He actually has never been a defensive coordinator in the NFL.
Right.
He was the linebackers coach before he became the interim head coach. He was not the DC. So just something to keep in mind, that he's never really held that job at the NFL level. I think he is a legitimate head coaching candidate. I think the Giants know his personality really well. I think his intelligence and personality and intensity is kind of what you do want as a head coach, to be honest with you. But the results in Vegas were not good. Yeah. Now, as you can see in Vegas, there's a lot of reasons for that. Yeah. The results are actually better under Antonio Pierce than they were under Pete Carroll. And they had a much better quarterback under Pete Carroll with Geno Smith than what Antonio Pierce had last year. And a better coaching staff around him, to be honest with you. You look at who the OC was. So, to me, I think he's a legitimate head coach candidate. I think it's, given his record as head coach, and I love Antonio Pierce, I'm friends with him, I think he'd be doing a great job. We'll see. But yeah, I think he is a legitimate head coaching interview candidate.
Yeah, and I hope so. I hope that's legitimate. I hope the interview is legitimate.
Oh, shit, it is.
And I would, with the Giants.
And look, the organization's so tight with him. They would not flip-flop him around and treat him that way.
Yeah. But we'll see. We don't know.
No, we don't.
We won't know for a while now, according to you. Possibly 2 weeks, but it could be a month that we find out basically who's the guy running the show here. So,
and we'll be here taking your calls the whole time.
And be listening.
JC, I don't know when we'll see you next. Hopefully soon.
All right, brother.
We'll talk soon, all right?
All right, man.
Jonathan Casillas, Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants, right here in the Hackensack Radio Hill Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. For Jonathan Casillas, for Johnny Mack, I am John Schmuck. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow. It's Dottino and SideTac at 12:30 for another Big Blue Kickoff Live. See you then.